And going back to the albums, of course, after Purple Rain, we have Around the World in a Day. And the interesting thing, which I wasn't really aware of until doing research for this, was that this was basically a record that was finished like by the time Purple Rain had come out. But of course, it was held back from release so that it could sort of have its own release cycle, basically. So I have to imagine once you started working on Around the World in a Day, you and Prince were in a pretty good rhythm from a working perspective.
Yeah, we were at a new warehouse, a bigger one, and we had our system, our methodology quite dialed in at this point. He had a lot going on, but not nearly as much as when he was on the movie set day in and day out. So the movie's
Hmm.
post production, it's soon to be released. The Purple Rain album is soon to be released, but there's going to be a tour, of course. He's got a plan for a tour, but he's got Prince still not busy enough. He's still got a little
Yeah.
bit of time, so he can be making a time album and he can be recording. As they're rehearsing for the Purple Rain tour, he's coming up with new songs. He was very hyper creative, so new songs are coming all the time, and he wants tape on that machine and he wants to be recording them. So, as I said earlier, we did long rehearsal versions of things like Possessed and Irresistible Bitch and Strange Relationship, and many, many, many titles they would just play for 30, 40, 50 minutes. While we're doing all this and new songs are coming along, we've got we've got recording equipment there, so we're recording, and ultimately that we had enough material to become the Around the World in a Day album.
And the big hit from Around the World in a Day was, of course, Raspberry Beret, which I would consider one of my favorite Prince songs. I love how it's such an 80s track, but it's also got this kind of 60s psychedelic influence to it, which really makes it stand out. And there's so much going on with that song. So what was the process like of making that song and putting all the elements together on it?
Came together at rehearsal, working out those parts with the band. Uh, Lyric writing, he refers to Old Man Johnson's farm, and Prince told me that the Johnson, he got that name from Jesse Johnson. That's when Jesse Johnson, he and Jesse had a fight, and Jesse decided to leave the Time as the Time's guitarist, and they fought, and Prince used the name Johnson in that song. I think it's one of his most beautiful lyrics. Thunder drowns out what the lightning sees. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful
Hmm.
imagery. The band Lightning Seeds thought he was saying lightning seeds, and they got the title of their band from that. Anyway, Prince asked Lisa Coleman to write the string arrangement for it, and she was utterly thrilled. So she brought in from Los Angeles her brother David Coleman on cello, Novi Novog on viola, and Susie Katayama also on cello. So the three of them came in, and Prince left us alone to do our thing. I recorded it, and Lisa conducted it, and Wendy was right there as well. And we had a really nice time. It's a lovely, lovely string arrangement from Lisa.
It it is, yeah, and I think the strings kind of help bring in that sort of psychedelic element to the song, really, in a lot of ways.
This, I
Um,
would like to say the psychedelic element was in part due to Susanna Melvoin, who was Prince's girlfriend at the time and Wendy's twin sister. Susanna was turning Prince on to records he wouldn't have heard as a kid growing up in North Minneapolis. She was turning him on to Led Zeppelin, turning him on to the Beatles, and a little bit of that psychedelic era, which was inspiring the cover of Around the World in a Day and inspiring some of his musical gestures on that album.